Welcome to RECO12. I'm Justin, your host and a grateful child of an all-powerful, all-loving God and an addict living in the miracle of recovery. RECO12 is all about exploring the common threads of addiction and sharing tools and hope from those on a similar path. We gather from diverse backgrounds, faiths, and places to learn and support one another. Our speakers represent various fellowships, addictions, and afflictions, reflecting the richness of our shared experiences. Join us in this journey of recovery and unity. Today's speaker for the 227th meeting is Ralph D., who is another first-time RECO12 speaker, and I'm excited to hear his share about resentment and obsession of the mind, and we'll get to his talk and Q&A afterwards in just a minute. First, for a little bit of business. Many of you may be aware RECO12 has several recovery resources in our family of podcasts and social media communities. To learn more, listen more, connect more, or just hang out and learn and grow with us, you can check out the other podcasts, Noodle It Out with Nikki M., which releases every Tuesday, Big Book Roundtable, which releases every Thursday, and RECO12 Shares, which releases each time we get enough recorded shares to release it. It typically goes out in about 5 or 6 shares per episode. To learn more about each of these podcasts, check out the chat or the show notes, or go to www.reco12.com. That's RECO12.com. And check it out to join our communities. I'll put notes here in the show notes in the chat to join those communities. I'm now scheduling into April and May for future RECO12 meetings. So if you or anybody you know has a message that you'd like to share, send me an email at reco12pod@gmail.com and we'll get that ball rolling. RECO12 is self-supporting, and we're so grateful for the contributions that help us continue our mission. Thank you this last week to Nikita and Nati for becoming spearheads and joining and supporting the RECO12 cause. If you'd also like to support RECO12 and become a spearhead, you can visit www.reco12.com/support for one-time or monthly donations. And as a heads up, and I'm really excited about this today, for any donations that come in today, or referencing in the donation note, whether it be through PayPal, Venmo, or the web page, if you reference today's meeting of Ralph's meeting, all donations will be going to the National Suicide Hotline for this meeting, and I'm excited to be able to do that. Your support makes a difference in all sorts of lives. We look forward each meeting to receiving from the light reflected from our speakers. That light inspires hope, meaning, worth, and growth in us, the listening audience. Now I'm going to introduce our guest speaker for today, Ralph D., and give a little background on him. From being raped by his brother at the age of 15 and groomed by 4 of his friends from that age until he was almost 18, led him to many years of resentment, drinking very hard, using drugs, and planning on killing the 5 of them or anyone that looked like them. The planning went on for many years in his head because he was trying to figure out a way of getting away with it without having to go to prison and without having to kill himself. In 2006, a friend of his told him, while they were drinking Jack Daniels and snorting cocaine, that he could find happiness in life if he went to AA and worked the steps, and he believed his friend. Ralph worked the steps right away after getting a sponsor and learned about forgiveness through working the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th steps. Through doing that, he has never had that resentment again, and his life has been much better. He's made mistakes along the way that led him to alcohol relapse after 10 years of sobriety. He currently has almost 3 years of S&on sobriety, and part of the message he wants to share is to don't give up and keep coming back. Take it away, Ralph. The floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Ralph, and I am a grateful S&on. A lot of people don't know about S&on, so I'm going to read out of the S&on book, the long version of the S&on problem. Basically, S&on is a program for people that have sexaholics in their life. The S&on problem, long version. S&on members have much in common with the friends and family members of other addicted people. Most of us grew up in families with secrets and were not taught to think about our own needs and take positive action to meet them. As we grew up, we felt more and more lonely and isolated as we chose friends and partners who could not or would not love and support us in a healthy way. We lived life from the standpoint of victims and perceived any personal criticism as a threat. For most of us, anger and depression were a way of life. We were so afraid of being left alone that anxiety and frustration were nearly constant. Whether or not we were exposed to sexaholism as children, most of us think that we acquired some unhealthy beliefs about ourselves very early in our lives, that we were not worthwhile and lovable, that we were able to control other people's behavior, and that sex was the most important sign of love. What is different is that we have felt the additional shame of being involved with sexaholism of a family member or friend. It does not matter a great deal whether the person was a member of our birth family, a partner, spouse, child, or someone outside the family like a friend, teacher, or boss. It does not matter whether we were willing, unwilling, or unknowing participants in the relationship. Sexaholism deeply affected our lives. Our self-esteem dropped to lower and lower levels, and we doubted our attractiveness, our emotions, our sanity, and our human worth. We have felt betrayed by those we loved the most, and those of us who didn't know about the sexaholic behavior felt even more humiliated and stupid for not knowing. Many of us were sexually abused, exposed to sexually transmitted diseases, and otherwise placed in physical danger. We were often afraid to trust others and reach out for help because we were afraid of what they would think of us or the sexaholic. Some of us reacted to sexaholism by denying its existence or minimizing its importance. We suffered our feelings of anger and abandonment to the point that we felt emotionally numb. We told ourselves things like, everybody does this. This shouldn't bother me. Or even, it can't be true. He or she would never do that. Others focused on the sexaholic and the sexaholic behavior to the point of obsession. We tried every known method to control it. We lied and covered up, spied at doorways, listened to private conversations, checked up on the sexaholic's whereabouts, read through journals and personal papers, begged, pleaded, and threatened. Some of us participated in sexual behavior that we did not enjoy or that made us ashamed of ourselves. Many of us tried to use sex to manipulate the sexaholic, thinking that being part of the acting out would give us a little bit more control over our lives. Most of us felt that we have done something to deserve this kind of treatment and that happiness is for others, not for us. Some of us misuse drugs, alcohol, or food to numb the pain. Others use activities such as shopping, exercising, or working to keep from feeling our emotions. We often felt neglected. We often neglected our health, our jobs, and our children. No matter how we tried to struggle against it, deny it, or minimize its effects, the failure to our efforts to cope with sexaholism brought us to the point of the despair. This is what is meant when we say in the first step that our lives had become unmanageable. And for me, there's one part of the AA Big Book that I really don't believe. And that part is God restoring us to sanity. In order to be restored to sanity, we had to have it in the first place. I grew up in a very dysfunctional home. My dad was retired from the military and a drunk. Um, There was a lot of fighting and arguing. I fought a lot with my siblings. Uh, I didn't I didn't understand it. We were supposed to be Christians. We went to church every week, but we never lived it outside of the church. We as church was a misunderstanding for me as I was growing up. Um, there was a lot of shaming and blaming. Um, we had constant resentment going on. Uh, a lot of unhealthy behaviors. And as I was growing up, I swore I wasn't going to become a drunk like my dad. But at the age of 9, that changed. Um, I was molested by my babysitter at the age of 9. And not long after that, I took my first drink. Uh, I was confused. Why would a 24-year-old woman want anything to do with a 9-year-old little boy? I drank lightly um, to try to figure things out. I knew there wasn't something wasn't right on the way that I was living and the way my family was. Um, and then at the age of 15, my brother raped me, and that's when my drinking went hardcore. Um, I started drinking every day on a regular basis. I started using marijuana at that age. Um, I started having resentment going through my head on a constant basis after that happened. And then from that age until I was almost 18, I was groomed by 4 of his friends. Um, in that time period, I started using cocaine on a regular basis. Um, at the age of 16, I got a job at a pizza restaurant, and my thinking on it was, I knew the mafia was running that pizza restaurant. I figured if I could get a job with them, it could help me to learn how to get away with murder. I worked for them for about 3 years. Um, they never taught me how to get away with murder, though. It just didn't happen. Um, I went through many years of resentment going through my head, an obsession of the mind, meaning it's a dangerous playground. Um, the only thing that helped to suppress the obsession of the mind and the resentment was drinking alcohol, using drugs, and having sex with a lot of women. Um, that's what I did up until age of 39 when I got into Alcoholics Anonymous. A friend of mine that was at a party with me, I always believed what he said because he was the most honest person that I had partied with. He told me that if I worked the steps of AA, that I could find happiness in life. Never once in my drinking career did I ever have the desire to quit drinking. Um, but I was always looking for happiness in life. I believed what he said, and I got into AA and I started working the steps. Um, when I got to step 4, it was difficult for me to do it the way the big book said, because I couldn't. My mind was so cluttered that I couldn't figure out any resentments besides my brother and his 4 friends. So my sponsor had me write a story of my life, and that helped me to figure out where my resentments were at. And we were able to make the list from there. Um, I went through the 4th step. And I went over to my sponsor's house after I got done writing the story. And we did 5th, 6th, and 7th step. I was at his house for several hours during that time period. And it was the first time that I admitted to anyone what had happened to me as a child. And just talking about it freed me. Um, and then uh, and then praying about it. Um, during my 6th and 7th step, during the prayer, I was in prayer for a couple of hours, and I had this spiritual awakening that just wouldn't quit while I was in that prayer. I could not fathom the strength that God had overpowered me with. It was just amazing. And from that point on, that obsession of the mind and that resentment towards my brother and his 4 friends never came back. And I am ever so grateful for that. Um, I got into Asanon in 2021 after a series of events. And I started working this program. And through working the Asanon program has helped me to be able to figure out some of the character defects that I have. I'm not all the way through the steps yet, but as I'm going, the questions in the book has just been amazing, and just answering those questions, sitting and thinking about it, helped me to. It helped me to realize that I have a character defect of wanting to pay people back when they harm me. Um, that that character defect came back to me back in October. Um, my ex-girlfriend and I got into an argument. She was my girlfriend at the time. Uh, she called the police, and I ended up leaving the house. I sat in my truck for almost 24 hours waiting to talk with the police officer that was going to come and talk with me. And during that time period, I found myself thinking about suicide. Um, program for me worked almost immediately. As soon as the thoughts came, I immediately locked my gun up in my TSA box and got program material out and started reading. In the past, something like that would not have happened. Um, I would have obsessed on those thoughts. And, the thinking that was going on in my head was, if if I end up going to jail, I'll kill myself to teach her a lesson. I thank God for 12-step program that those tools were there to help me through that process. I want to live a better life. And for me, a better life and having happiness, I have this dream that somewhere out there, there's a woman that I could marry and we could live happily ever after in a beautiful house. And we could serve God together. I really don't care about material things. Um, Spiritual life is, for me, one of the greatest things that life has to offer on a daily basis. So when I wake up, I get some kind of contact with God in some way. Some days it's a little bit of a struggle, and before having prayer, sometimes I'll go to a meeting that I know people are going to be talking about God. There's meditation meetings that I have programmed into my calendar, and they're very helpful for me to get in contact with God. I have to ask God on a daily basis to help guide me, to be helpful to Him and my fellows. On a daily basis, I have to ask God for His help and guidance. Um, my first sponsor that I worked steps with never guided me all the way through the steps. We only went through step 9. He ended up relapsing. Um, I was searching out a sponsor to try to finish the steps up. I wanted to learn about step 10, and here lately I found some text on one of the WhatsApp groups I'm in. Somebody had done their step 10 and posted it on the group. I copied it, and I prayed and asked God to put somebody in my life for a 10-step partner. And that night, somebody posted that they were looking for a 10-step partner. Uh, Answered prayers doesn't always come that quickly, but when it's something like that, it just amazes me how quickly a prayer is answered. Um, I'm very grateful. I think it's been a couple of months now. I've been doing 10-step every day consistently. I think that's very important. Um, I'm starting on my 4th step, going through the S&on program with a sponsor that has multi addictions. He's also sexaholic. He could qualify as an alcoholic. But I work the S&on program because it's the program that would kill me the quickest. And I think that's important. If you're multi addicted, you need to work the program that's going to kill you the quickest. Um, my thinking has never been right, and I have to ask God to help me adjust my thinking. I have I've got this thing about my thinking that I think I know everything. And a couple of years ago, I realized that I have stubbornness to me, and I was told about the set aside prayer, and I started praying the set aside prayer um, to help me to get rid of that stubbornness. I need to be more open minded for new ideas to help me in this recovery journey. Um, I'm not a perfect person. I haven't worked this program perfectly to a T. I make mistakes along the way, but I keep coming back. And because I do, it's a lot easier for me to get a contact with God. You know, when I've made those mistakes, I ask God to forgive me. I ask the people that I have wronged. I ask them, what can I do to make this right? Uh, to me, saying I'm sorry can be for something small, but when it comes to the bigger things, I have to ask the people, what can I do to make this right? Um, I can't just say I'm sorry and then just blow it off. I have to take action. Um, for me, there was I did my ninth step the first time. I had over $300,000 worth of treated lumber that I had stolen over a 2 year time period with a commercial vehicle. And I went to the distribution center that I had stolen that lumber from, and I asked them what I could do to make it right. And they were just happy that I was in Alcoholics Anonymous and that I was trying to seek God and have a better life for myself. They told me that they had written it off on taxes and they got most of the lumber back, so that they weren't going to do anything, and they were just happy that I was in Alcoholics Anonymous and working a program. Uh, I had a lot of fear of doing that ninth step because of that. You know, I had the possibility I could have went to prison. That's a lot of money's worth of lumber. Um, I'm very grateful for 12 step recovery, very grateful that God was working in Bill Wilson's life. Uh, there's now over 300 types of 12 step groups out there. Whatever your addiction, whatever your affliction, uh, there's something out there to help you. And I'm very grateful for that. I get into a lot of service work. Um, I've been on the committee for the winter retreat in Sarasota, Florida, for SA and SNN. For I've been on that committee for 3 years. Activities coordinator. It has helped me through my recovery. Um, right now, I am on a speaker tour, which is going to end me up probably in April at the SASNN family reunion in Kansas City. I have several talks I got to do in between now and then, and very grateful that God works through my talks. Me planning on becoming a serial killer is something I was scared to talk about because I never heard anybody talk about that in recovery before. But I've found from talking about it that I've gotten healing, and people have come to me and talked to me about them having thoughts of trying and wanting to kill other people because of things that had happened in their life. And it's just amazing. I am more than willing to have people call me. I'm more than willing to sponsor people. And right now I have a sponsee up in Canada that is going through rehab. And once he gets out, I'm going to be working him through the steps on the S&on program. Uh, I don't know where God is going to lead me to, but I do know that I find peace and happiness in life when I work with others.
Hmm.
It helps me to get out of me, and it helps me to have a stronger connection with God. And I am ever so grateful for this program. There's a lot of things that I could talk about, but one thing I've got some notes down here
Okay.
on. I seen this posting on one of my WhatsApp groups. The making of a sex addict starts in the family. It doesn't start out in the real world with everybody else. Um, Addicts in the family, 87%. Rigid family system, 77%. Disengaged family system, 87%. Rigid and disengaged family system, 68%. Abuse and early trauma, emotional trauma, 97%. Sexual trauma, 81%. Physical trauma, 72%. Um, 8 trauma factors, and these are all high percentage numbers. Reaction, pleasure, blocking, splitting, abstinence, shame, repetition, bonding. All those are high percentages people are lacking in. It creates the sex addict. Um, Sexual addiction, compulsive behaviors, 94%. Loss of control, 93%. Efforts to stop is 88%. Loss of time, 94%. Inability to fulfill obligations, 87%. Withdrawing and emotional unavailability, 98%. Um, unhealthy unhealthy communication creates all these things.
Hmm.
Um, I seek further to find out about healthy communication. Um, when I was with my girlfriend, we were in a program called RCA.
Hey, Ralph,
After I
let's
broke
give it, wrap this up in about 2 minutes so we can get to the
two
questions
minutes,
and answers. You're doing great.
okay,
Thanks.
okay. I was in this program called RCA, and it's Recovering Couples Anonymous, and I kept going back even after I broke up with her because I wanted to find out more about healthy relationships. Um, I'm very grateful that God is using me to help other people. Very grateful that I am seeking out to try to find what is healthy and what is not. Uh, and I'm very blessed that I was able to speak on here today, and I'm going to continue my 12-step journey. very grateful for that. And thanks for letting me share.
Love it. Thank you so much, Ralph. You shared a lot of vulnerable and important and powerful things in there. And it's triggered a few questions from our live audience. I've written down several questions on my own. A reminder to our live audience, if you have a question for Ralph, please type it in the chat there. We'll get to those. We'll get to as many questions as we can in the remainder of our time here. So first is a comment that comes from one of our attendees who just wanted to thank you, Ralph, for your story. It really is a testimony. This person said that they were also molested by their dad, and their mom knew and did nothing. This person's dad died when she was 9. Though through therapy and through programs, she's forgiven him and everyone who hurt me. And this person says, "God bless you. God bless you, Ralph. Thank you for your share." Um, yeah, that's emotional things, connections are being made as you share these things. I also have a question from Jane from our live audience. Jane says, hey, Ralph, I'm an Ashley alumni. How does your spirituality affect how you sponsor someone? So how does your spirituality affect how you sponsor someone, Ralph?
Having spirituality is what helps me to be able to sponsor someone. Um, Before I got into recovery and me not having spirituality, I hated people with a passion. I would not help someone unless there was something in it for me. Um, as I go on this journey, I ask God uh, to help guide me, to be able to have the right words, to be able to help the sponsees, to be able to know what to do, because I don't know it all. If it wasn't for my spirituality, I wouldn't be able to help someone without wanting something in return. And I am ever so grateful that I have love and compassion for people today because of God working in my life.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ralph. Have another question that comes in from Nikita. Nikita says, thank you, Ralph, for your share. With recovery under your belt, how have you been able to communicate with others when being assertive is needed, but also being able to not come across as aggressive? How do you make a differentiation between assertiveness and aggression?
When my when my emotional stability starts cropping up, I can feel it, and I have to step aside for a minute and say a quick prayer, um, because without that, I can get aggressive. I My character defects have the tendency of trying to come back. I have to be in contact with God. You know, I'm a truck driver, and I work with some people that get pretty aggressive sometimes, and so I have to have my mind about myself. Not only for my job. I could get fired for talking the wrong way to someone. Um, and just, I really don't know, except for I have to take a moment to pray, and ask God to help me through those moments. That's the best answer I can give you on that one.
Thank you, Ralph. And I love that. I love that answer and that honesty there. Yeah. For me too, it's the same thing. I need to be totally conscious of that pause when agitated, because agitation will come. And if I don't pause, my reaction is going to be aggressive, and it's gonna cause more hurt than help. All right, I've got a question for you here that I wrote down from your shares. You talked about that you've been doing 10th steps pretty much daily for, I think you said, 3 years. Tell me about why
No,
that can. Well, I'm sorry.
2 months, a couple of months.
Oh, a couple of months. Okay, sorry about that. You've been doing that for the last couple of months. Tell me about how things have changed over the last couple of months as had this daily reflection and looking at this 10th step, and why you think that's such an important part of your program in your life.
Um, I think that's important because as I share things that I would normally not tell someone about, um, I find spiritual spurts come through me from God, um, letting me know that that's a good thing that you shared that, and in doing so, it helps me in the healing process. Um, Now, this sickness with sexaholism uh, is a sickness of a family of secrets. And the more secrets we keep, the sicker we are. Um, I think it's important to let everything be known. And I'm open and honest completely with my 10-step partner. We don't always communicate on a regular basis, but we send our 10 steps through WhatsApp. Um, I see her every once in a while in meetings, but I think it's healthy, and I believe it's something that God wants us to do, is to confess our sins to one another so that we can get healing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It's good. And I think that 10th step is a great way to do that, to practice that, confessing our sins one to another so we can find healing. I've got a couple of comments from our live audience. Brian says, "You rock, Ralph. Thanks for being willing to spill your guts." And I think you touched on that there with the honesty. I'm only as sick as my secrets. And if I don't have any secrets, what am I afraid of? What am I sick of? Right?
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit more about that, only being as sick as your secrets.
Well, example of it is me planning on becoming a serial killer um, was because of my secrets. I knew nothing about forgiveness, and I wasn't about to tell anybody what had happened. Um, and because of that, it kept going over and over in my head. That resentment was there. It kept going over and over in my head. And for over 20 years, I had this obsession and resentment. Um, it's, it's a dangerous playground. Um, Anything that's going on with you that you think that you're planning on taking to your grave with you, please get it out. It it can damage you emotionally and spiritually.
That's such a powerful phrase. Anything that I plan on taking to the grave with me. I know that as I came into the rooms of recovery, and the first time I did my step 4, I was like, no, I'm taking that to the grave with me. And I didn't want to share it. But my
Mm.
sponsor leaned on me as we were doing step 4 or 5 and said, it's time to scrape out the bottom of the barrel here. Get all the muck out of there. Is there anything you're still holding on to that you think you're going to take to the grave? Because if it is, you're going to get drunk again. You're going to act out again. You're going to get lit up again. Um, Thank you for sharing that. The next comment also comes from one of our live audience members, Angie. Right? Angie says, "Ralph, you are the most real person I've seen in these rooms. I can relate to your story. I love what God is doing through you. Seems it's all spiritual recovery. How important is that spiritual part of and God, your higher power in your recovery, and how has your relationship with your higher power changed over the last several years?"
Well, that is the most important part of my life. Um, Over the last several years, I found that I actually went through a process of finding out that I was picking mates that were unhealthy for me. Um, that argument you talked about, to where I was sitting in my truck thinking about suicide. Because of that, I decided to not have communication with my girlfriend for a couple of weeks. And I found that in doing so, her chaos left my head, and I was able to get back in communication with God. Um, Things that don't belong in my life cuts communication off with God. And it's a process that each person has to go through on their own to figure out what it is that cuts them off from God, and stay away from that. And I think it's very important to know that that communication with God has to be first in our lives.
Mm. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Um, So, you talked, and this sounds like it's a very pivotal moment in your own recovery and in your own life when you were sitting in the truck thinking about suicide. And for those who may have come in after we started, all donations that happen during this meeting, all donations that happen that reference this meeting through the future will go to the National Suicide Hotline. So, Ralph, tell us a little bit about the importance of that, the meaning of that National Suicide Hotline, and the importance of that in your own life.
Well, because I because I was planning on becoming a serial killer, and I I really didn't want to kill myself, because I didn't want to go to prison. Um, I had a lot of thoughts of suicide over that many years of time period. Um, Even though I didn't want to kill myself, I wanted to live. Um, and I know there's many people out there that have suicidal thoughts, and just because the thought is there doesn't mean that they want to kill themselves. I think it's important to keep this national suicide hotline going, so that that service can be there for other people to help them through the tough times that they're going through in their life.
Yeah, thank you for being an advocate for that. And yes, I am on your side there. And so many people can gain help from that hotline and from connection with others who truly love them and support them and walk that path. And I think 12-step fellowship rooms are great places to find that support. Um, All right, we've got a couple of more comments and then we'll start wrapping this up. So, comment coming from Jackie from our live audience. Jackie says, I just wanted to thank you for sharing and for your openness. I too am a survivor of childhood sexual and other forms of abuse. I found S-Anon when I discovered my partner's SA and infidelity, which led me to realize I needed my own recovery for sex, love, and fantasy addiction. Thank you for the reminder that there is support for all of us in one of many programs. So you mentioned, Ralph, that for someone who maybe has multiple addictions, is a multidisciplinary addict, as I define myself, may want to focus on the one that is going to kill them the fastest first. How do you mix in other fellowships as you go along? Is that something that you think, hey, let's address them all in one fellowship, or do you think you should move along and move into other ones as time goes on?
Oh, I'm in several fellowships. I'm in Spiritual Gangsters. I go to big book meetings through there. Um, I love I love my S-Anon family. You know, the fellowship that I get with going to conferences. I go to conferences 3 times a year through that. And I go to another conference that's a biker AA camp out. Uh, you got to find what is good for you. There's I've went to AAA meetings, um, AA meetings. I go to NA. I have some Christian 12-step meetings that I go to, and I love them because we get into in the parking lot. We get into praying for each other after the meeting, and that's really good and healthy for my recovery. Um, my schedule with my work is not solid every day, same time, because of being a truck driver. So I have several meetings programmed in my calendar on my phone. If I miss one, I'll get to another. Um, there's some days that I go to 5, 6 meetings a day. There's other days that I'm not able to get to that many. I do. I reach out to people in the program in several different fellowships, um, and my number is open for people to give me a call.
Thank you, Ralph. And for those who are here live, his number is in his name tag there on the Zoom window. We will not publish that number here for the recording. But if you do want to get in contact with Ralph, send an email to RECO12pod@gmail.com, and I will forward that information to Ralph so that you can be in contact with him. One more comment before we start wrapping up. This comes from Eve from our live audience. Thank you for speaking about the grave emotional and mental disorders that are added burdens in addition to addiction for very many of us. That's something that's so important to look at. Have you seen in your own recovery, Ralph, or in your experience, strength, and hope of working with others, how sometimes those emotional and mental disorders can be maybe not healed, but treated and lightened up a little bit through active and thorough working of the 12 steps?
For me, thorough working of the 12 steps is where I got my healing through. I was 3 days into AA back in 2006 when I was in a big book study. And during that big book study, on page 12 of Alcoholics Anonymous, Bill says, my friend suggested that what seemed a novel idea, he said, why don't you choose your own conception of God? And right at that moment was my first spiritual awakening. Hearing that, that helped me to take the God that everybody made me think I was supposed to fear and turned him into a loving, caring God. From having that spiritual awakening, I was relieved of being suicidal, being homicidal, depression. All of that lifted from me. And it let me know that I was in the right place and this is what I needed to do. Um, I have never tried seeking outside help. Um, I don't believe that's something that I need. Um, there are times when I get emotionally unstable in my head, but when I feel that, I go to prayer and ask God for His help. Um, that's my program. Um, if if someone out there thinks that they need outside help, um, it's up to you to do that. I can't tell anyone that no, that's not a place to go. You need to be open minded about it because mental health is something that's very important.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ralph. All right. Before we wrap up, do you have any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share with us before we go into our closing readings?
My final words of wisdom are seek God, clean house, and help others.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ralph. Big thanks to Ralph for a fantastic RECO12 weekly speaker meeting. If we missed your question, or if you have more, please consider joining our WhatsApp community. You can do that by sending an email to RECO12pod@gmail.com. You can send an email there also to connect with Ralph, to ask questions about donations to the National Suicide Hotline, to connect with anything else that is going on with RECO12, and also to become a future speaker on RECO12. If you have not already done so, please consider rating and reviewing this podcast on Apple Podcasts. It's a powerful way to get the meeting out there to more people who may be in need of Ralph's message or anybody else's message that we have on here. Make sure to check out our Afro-Euro recordings that Karen A hosts on many Wednesdays, including this coming Wednesday. Next Friday, we are scheduled to hear from a return RECO12 speaker, Ashley S., who previously spoke to us almost exactly 1 year ago on the topic of an earnest seeker. And I look forward to her experience, strength, and hope next week as we hear from her. Thanks for being a part of this transitioned way of doing RECO12. I think it's been nice to see names of people, see faces of some people as we have this meeting. It's brought a little bit more connection to me in this. We'll continue on this path, being a bit more interactive with future meetings. Stay tuned on the WhatsApp community and on our email list for more information on that. If you aren't already on that email list, send an email to RECO12pod@gmail.com. We'll get you on that. Now let's launch off into the rest of our day with the Lord's Prayer, which Ralph will say for us.
Take a moment of silence for those who are sick and suffering, followed by the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Amen. Remember, everybody, there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find God now. Keep coming back, and when you do, come all the way in, sit all the way down. Let's trudge this road of happy destiny together. Work it. You are worth it.
There was a man put his hand by the side of his mouth, and he wanted to scream, but the sound never came out. So he reached for the bottle to wash the pain away, 'cause what he wanted so badly was to live a different way. And all of his problems and all of his pain filled up the puddle and rose with the rain. His ship kept on sinking to the bottom of the lake. For certain that he was just a fake, just a fake. Was a man put his hand by the side of his mouth, and he wanted to share, but only lies ever came out. So he reached for the needle to numb the pain inside. sun sinking, bottom of the lake, he knew for certain that he was just a fake, just a side of his mouth as he read from the book, only truth spilled out. So he reached for a power to help him through the night. 'Cause what lives in the darkness dies in the night. Yeah, what lives in the darkness dies.